Chapter 40. Anyone who likes Jiang Su is no good. When Bai Shuqin and Guan Baoqing arrived at the hospital after receiving the call, Guan Ruerue and Pei Yuancheng had just been sent out of the operating room. Guan Ruerue suffered fractures of varying degrees in both legs and a mild concussion. Pei Yuancheng was better, with only a broken arm, the very one Guan Ruerue had hugged earlier. Incredibly, the two cars collided head-on and the driver, who should have borne the brunt of the impact, suffered only minor injuries, and after applying medicine and bandaging, he didn't even need to stay in the hospital for observation. Bai Shuqin couldn't care less about the driver at the moment. Looking at Guan Ruerue lying pale on the hospital bed, she immediately felt a pang of heartache and tears almost fell. Her already weak body swayed violently, but fortunately, she was supported by the nurse next to her in time. "Ruerue, my poor Ruerue, you were staying at home so well. Why did you have to go out? If something happens to you, how will your mother live?" Bai Shuqin sobbed and cried. Guan Baoqing, who was already having a headache, pressed his head and reprimanded her. "All right, isn't she all right?" Upon hearing this, Bai Shuqin immediately protested, her voice sharp. "A broken leg and you call that nothing? This Pei family's driver, I don't know if he did it on purpose. Otherwise, why is it that out of the 3 people in the car, my Ruerue is the one who was injured the most? Shut your mouth. You're giving me a headache." Guan Baoqing sat on the sofa next to him and couldn't help but roar at Bai Shuqin. Since the outburst that night, Guan Baoqing seemed to have opened some kind of switch, and he was no longer as considerate and gentle to Bai Shuqin as he used to be. Bai Shuqin felt aggrieved and could only shut her mouth and sit next to him. After a while, she couldn't help but open her mouth again. "Husband, I think there's really something wrong with our family. First, the 2 of us got sick, then Qishan had a car accident, and now even Ruerue has an accident. How can there be such a coincidence?" Seeing that Guan Baoqing's face was gloomy and he didn't respond, but was obviously listening, Bai Shuqin continued, with a deliberate explanation. "Especially that night, I really felt like I was possessed. Those words came out of my mouth uncontrollably. That wasn't my intention at all. It was as if someone was controlling me to say those words." Guan Baoqing sneered from the side and didn't believe Bai Shuqin's words at all. If she hadn't thought about it in her heart, how could she have said those words? But after calming down for 2 days, Guan Baoqing no longer felt the initial anger towards her, and also noticed something was wrong. He has always been a restrained person. Even if Bai Shuqin did those stupid things, it was impossible for him to directly lose his mind and do such crazy behavior. He would never lay a hand on Bai Shuqin, not because he loved her so much, but because he believed that only useless men would vent their anger on their wives. Like him, a decent person, even if he encountered something that made him angry, he had to maintain reason and decency on the surface. So he was indeed a bit wrong that night. "Husband, do you think these things have anything to do with that little bitch Jiang Su? Bai Shuqin thought Jiang Su had used some means to deal with the Guan family, but Guan Baoqing suddenly thought of what Jiang Su had said to them before. "Your technique for switching fates was not successful at all. Guan Ruerue's previous calamity will soon come back to her. If you want to save her, have Guan Ruerue bring Grandma's bracelet to see me in person." Guan Baoqing narrowed his eyes slightly, his face becoming gloomy and deep again. Perhaps it really has something to do with her. Hearing Guan Baoqing's words, Bai Shuqin was overjoyed and about to agree, when Guan Ruerue on the bed suddenly groaned and woke up. Bai Shuqin and Guan Baoqing couldn't care about anything else at the moment, and hurried to the bedside. Guan Ruerue was startled when she saw the 2 of them. After a long while, she seemed to realize that she wasn't dreaming and immediately looked at them, crying. "Dad, Mom, Brother Pei wants to break up with me, sob sob sob." Bai Shuqin, "Your leg is broken. Aren't you going to cry about your leg first, instead of crying about this?" Even Bai Shuqin, as her mother, couldn't help but feel speechless at this moment. How could she know that because the anesthesia from the surgery hadn't worn off yet, Guan Ruerue didn't feel any pain at the moment? So the first thing she thought of was what Pei Yuancheng had said to her in the car. Although it was just the beginning, she understood what Pei Yuancheng meant. He clearly saw that Jiang Su had become a member of the Jiang family, so he wanted to abandon her. It's all Jiang Su's fault. Even if she leaves the Guan family, she still wants to steal from her. Pei Yuanqing is not a good thing either. Scumbag. Sure enough, anyone who likes someone like Jiang Su is not a good man. Guan Ruerue looked indignant on the surface, but Guan Baoqing, hearing her words, became more and more certain that these things were related to what Jiang Su had said before. Ruerue's disaster was not transferred successfully, and her calamity has not passed. So first there were continuous nightmares, then a breakup, and then a car accident. Isn't it the same as what Ruerue encountered when she was a child with so many things happening together? And by Shuqin's abnormality that night, if Shuxuan did something that caused Shuqin to be unable to control herself and say what was in her heart, then Shuxuan must know about this. Otherwise, how would she know about blocking disasters and changing fates, and be able to prevent the fate change from succeeding? Thinking of this, Guan Baoqing felt a little short of breath and subconsciously looked at Guan Ruerue's wrist. Seeing that it was empty, he quickly asked Ruerue, "Where's the bracelet your grandma left you?" "It's at home." "Why are you suddenly asking about it?" "That bracelet was too old-fashioned. If it wasn't to anger Jiang Su, she wouldn't have worn it on her wrist, so she later threw it into her jewelry box." Guan Baoqing thought of what Jiang Su had said at the time, and told his wife and daughter his guess. Hearing that Jiang Su might be able to save her life, but on the premise that she had to take the bracelet to beg her, Guan Ruerue had a moment of ferocity on her face, but she quickly concealed it, while looking at Bai Shuqin aggrievedly. Bai Shuqin lived up to her expectations and screamed out loud, "Let my Ruerue take the bracelet and personally beg that little bitch." "Impossible. Husband. How could you have such a thought? Isn't that letting my Ruerue offer herself up to be humiliated by that little bitch?" "No way. I absolutely refuse." Guan Baoqing already knew she would react this way. He just looked at Bai Shuqin coldly. "If you don't let Ruerue go to her, do you have another way? If Ruerue's destined calamity is still there, then today's car accident will definitely not be the end, but the beginning." Guan Ruerue's face turned pale when she heard this, looking weak and helpless. Bai Shuqin felt her heart ache and tears were about to fall. Hugging Guan Ruerue's head, she only said, "There are many capable people in this world. It's not like begging that bitch is the only way. And what could that bitch possibly know? If she really had that ability, she wouldn't have been shielding Ruerue from misfortune in our family for 18 years. I think she's just deliberately talking nonsense. Her purpose is to humiliate our Ruerue and take away the old lady's bracelet." Guan Baoqing frowned as he looked at Bai Shuqin, but he didn't immediately retort. Clearly he had the same concerns in his heart. Just then, the door of the ward was pushed open from the outside. It was Guan Qixin who had rushed over after hearing the news. He had heard everything outside the door. If she wants Grandma's bracelet, just give it to her. Nothing is more important than Ruerue. As for the bracelet, I'll personally take it to her for Ruerue. Guan Qixin's tone was steady and confident, not taking this seriously. He had been Xu brother for 18 years. He believed that as long as he opened his mouth, Xu would definitely not refuse him. Chapter 41. He and Guan Baoqing deserve to be father and son. "I refuse." In the side hall of the Jiang family, Jiang Su looked at Guan Qixin and refused without hesitation. Guan Qixin was obviously stunned for a moment, even thinking he had misheard. What did you say?" "I said I refuse." Seeing his look of not hearing clearly, Jiang Su kindly repeated it to him word by word. Guan Qixin's face immediately turned ugly, including the last time. This was the second time Xu had not listened to him. "Xu, don't be stubborn. I know you're still angry about Mom asking you to leave the Guan family that day, but we're all family, and besides, if it weren't for Mom and Dad, you wouldn't be able to return to the Jiang family now." Jiang Su glanced at him. "According to you, I should be grateful to you?" Guan Qixin was about to speak, but Jiang Su interrupted him simply. "Besides, I'm not family with you anymore. My surname is now Jiang. Even if you've recognized your biological parents, we're still family." Guan Qixin frowned. "Or are you really like what they say? Now that you're the Jiang family's eldest daughter, you don't want to recognize us anymore?" Jiang Su looked at him like that, and asked softly, "What if I said yes?" When Jiang Su went downstairs to get freshly squeezed juice, He saw Jiang Han leaning against a side railing on the second-floor stairs, watching something with a look of amusement. He had just approached when he happened to hear Jiang Shushu's words. The Jiang family villa has a living room in both the front and back. The front main hall is generally used for family gatherings or receiving guests and is more formal, while the back hall is relatively smaller and directly faces the railing on the second floor, meaning that from the second floor, one can clearly see the situation in the back hall. Jiang Su almost instantly forgot about the juice, twisting his body to lean over. The two heads huddled together, listening to the gossip downstairs. Downstairs, Jiang Shushu maintained her somewhat indifferent posture, saying only, "The day I left the Guan family, I said that I have nothing to do with you anymore. Even if I'm not the Jiang family's eldest daughter, I don't want to acknowledge you." Guan Qixin's expression turned ugly for a moment due to Jiang Shushu's words, but he quickly restrained himself and said in a deep voice, "Shushu, I've already heard about what happened at the banquet. No matter what Mom and Dad were thinking, they raised you after all. You're so impatient, even disassociating yourself from the Guan family in front of so many people. Do you know how much you've hurt them? Mom and Dad never used to argue, but that day they argued fiercely because of you and fell ill that same day." Guan Qixin first lectured with a straight face, then softened his tone. "Even so, they didn't blame you. They're still willing to let me bring Grandma's bracelet to find you. Shushu, Mom and Dad have really been good to you. Don't always be so ungrateful." A vein twitched slightly on Jiang Shushu's forehead. In the past, she always thought Guan Qixin was the only normal person in the Guan family. After all, from childhood to adulthood, Guan Qixin never deliberately suppressed her or deliberately made her get scolded like Guan Ruerue. Instead, he would take the initiative to care about her studies, give her birthday gifts, and even comfort her when she was punished by Shuqin. Because of this, she once tried to treat Guan Qixin as her own brother, doing various things for him, trying to get a little warmth from him. But later she realized, Guan Qixin wasn't who she thought he was. Caring about her studies was just because he didn't want her to embarrass the Guan family. The birthday gifts he gave her were from his admirers that he didn't want, and comforting her was just to keep her from causing trouble. Guan Qixin was just better at disguising his hypocrisy and selfishness than the rest of the Guan family. In this sense, he and Guan Baoqing were worthy of being father and son. "That bracelet was originally left to me by Grandma. You want me to help? I only asked Guan Ruerue to return what she stole from me personally. I've already been very kind to you. Why are you so ungrateful?" Jiang Shushu simply returned Guan Qixin's words to him. Jiang Su upstairs almost couldn't help but laugh out loud, but luckily he covered his mouth in time to stop himself. The two downstairs still seemed oblivious. Guan Qixin frowned directly. "Ruerue is injured." "Seriously injured? What does that have to do with me?" Guan Qixin looked at her in disbelief. "Shushu, how have you become like this? Ruerue is your sister. She's called you sister for over a decade." Jiang Zhushu only looked at him with a sneer on her lips and a mocking tone. "I can't afford a sister who pushes her own sister out to be hit by a car in order to ward off disaster." She didn't tell anyone about the car accident that day, because she knew that even if she did, no one would believe her. The car accident that Shuqin referred to as Guan Ruerue's 18th-year tribulation was initially aimed at Guan Ruerue. However, the moment Guan Ruerue saw the car crashing towards her, her first reaction was to push her, who was beside her, away. However, neither Shuqin nor Guan Ruerue expected that she would survive that car accident. As Jiang Zhushu expected, Guan Qixin's first reaction upon hearing this was disbelief. "What nonsense are you talking about? How could Ruerue do such a thing?" "Zhushu, I understand that you're feeling unbalanced after the car accident, but you can't randomly blame others. You said Ruerue pushed you to block the car. Why didn't you say so at the time? Even if Ruerue really did that, it was just a subconscious action because she was too scared at the time. As her sister, what's wrong with you taking the disaster for Ruerue? Why do you always have to be so petty?" Guan Qixin gave a long lecture, his tone full of condemnation and disappointment towards Jiang Zhushu, leaving Jiang Su upstairs completely stunned. When he heard the other party actually accuse Jiang Zhushu of being petty, the young man completely lost his composure. "What the heck? Look at my fiery temper." While cursing, He made a gesture of rolling up his sleeves and turned to run downstairs. His movements were so fast that even Jiang Han couldn't stop him in time. It was at this moment that Guan Qixin downstairs seemed to suddenly realize the presence of people upstairs, and his expression changed slightly. In contrast, Jiang Zhuxiu's reaction was much calmer, as if she had known it all along. Over there, Jiang Su had already run downstairs, rushed into the side hall with his slippers on, and pointed at Guan Qixin, starting to scold. "Damn your dad. Is there something seriously wrong with the Guan family? The women are venomous, and the men are hypocritical. Your sister pushed her out to be hit by a car, and she's being petty for mentioning it. Why don't you go out and get hit by a car? Oh, looking at your arm in a sling, you've probably already been hit, right? When you got into a car accident and went to the hospital, why were you only concerned about your hand and didn't ask the doctor to check your brain? Your brain must have been damaged already, right?" Chapter 42. Jiang Zhuxiu, such a cold and ruthless person. In the Jiang family, Jiang Su has always been synonymous with recklessness. As long as he doesn't like something, he'll say whatever he wants to whomever, let alone if the person in front of him isn't even a member of the Jiang family. Guan Qixin was suddenly scolded by a 14 or 15-year-old boy, and his expression was extremely ugly. However, he still tried his best to maintain his dignity as a member of the Guan family, frowned and questioned. "Who are you?" "I'm talking to my sister." "Don't you know you're not supposed to eavesdrop when others are talking?" That tone of an elder teaching someone made Jiang Su's mouth twitch. Jiang Su was the kind of person who couldn't stand being lectured by others. Apart from Grandpa Jiang and his eldest uncle, anyone who dared to point fingers at him would be met with an immediate explosion. "She's your sister, my ass. Her name is Jiang now. She's a member of our Jiang family. Her brother is upstairs, her younger brother is downstairs. Who do you think you are? Stop trying to claim kinship here. Upstairs, brother Jiang Han. You're acknowledging her yourself. Why drag me into it?" Jiang Su didn't care what Jiang Han thought, and went on a full-blown offensive against Guan Qixin. "I heard you yapping away upstairs, saying things like, 'We're not angry that you're like this, we've been good to you.' Who are you trying to gaslight? With your skills, you think you can take down KFC? Jiang Zhuxiu may be dumb, but the rest of the Jiang family aren't fools." Jiang Zhuxiuan. "I suspect you're taking the opportunity to smear me, and I have evidence." Although Jiang Su didn't hear everything from start to finish, he got the gist of it from the conversations he overheard. Weren't the Guan family just here to ask Jiang Zhuxiu for help? Asking for help with this attitude? Jiang Zhuxiu might tolerate it, but he couldn't. The Guan family's intentions have been known as far as the North Atlantic for years. And you're here putting on a show of family affection? You can't even fool me, let alone Jiang Zhuxiu, who is so cold and ruthless. Do you think she'll fall for your little tricks? Jiang Zhuxiuan. That's the second time. I repeat, I have evidence. Jiang Su, now fired up, pointed to the jewelry box on the table and, without another word, picked up the bracelet inside, looking disgusted. You bring this broken bracelet as a gift when asking for help? Who are you looking down on? With that, he raised his hand to smash the bracelet. Jiang Zhuxiu's expression finally changed. She quickly flicked her fingers in Jiang Su's direction, sending a burst of spiritual energy towards his raised hand. Jiang Su felt a numbness in his arm, as if he couldn't move for a moment. The next second he saw Jiang Zhuxiu, who had been sitting on the single sofa, seemingly flash, and in 2 steps she was in front of him, snatching the bracelet from his hand. She glared at him with her almond-shaped eyes. The bracelet she had finally gotten back, and this idiot almost destroyed it. Jiang Zhuxiu was sure this idiot was doing it on purpose. Dear brain Jiang Su was now terrified. For a moment, his entire arm was paralyzed, but as soon as Jiang Zhuxiu took the bracelet, his arm was able to move again. He didn't believe it had nothing to do with Jiang Zhuxiu. Jiang Han upstairs was even more shocked. Jiang Su might not have seen it clearly from below, but standing upstairs, he had a clear view of Jiang Zhuxiu's movements just now. She had taken just 2 strides to get to Jiang Su, the distance of 3 meters, with a table in between, and she just crossed over without even swaying. Could this Jiang Zhuxiu have some kind of martial arts skills? Guan Qixin didn't feel it as deeply as the Jiang Su brothers. He had been paying attention to Jiang Su's actions all along. When he saw him about to smash the bracelet, he had even hoped he would just smash it already. In his opinion, although it was something Grandma left behind, it was good that it broke if Jiang Su was going to fall out with her family over such a thing. Moreover, if it broke in Jiang Su's hands, he could use the excuse that he broke Grandma's relics to lash out. At that time, even if Jiang Su didn't want to help, she would have to take responsibility for it. What's more, the Guan family could even seize upon a fault of the Jiang family and demand compensation from them. Well, it would be great if the Jiang family could make up for the cooperation with the Guan family that was cancelled these days because of the Jiang family. What a pity! Why didn't it break? Guan Qixin looked at Jiang Su with some regret. Jiang Su saw his expression, and her face was slightly cold. She simply said, "If there's nothing else, please go back." Guan Qixin turned his head to look at Jiang Su again, his expression full of helplessness. "Su, I really treat you as family. Do you have to be like this? You won't even listen to your brother's request?" When Jiang Su heard him call himself brother again, he felt particularly harsh. His fiery temper flared up again, and he was about to scold him again, but Jiang Su spoke before him, her tone light, but she asked, "Do you still have the jade pendant I gave you?" Hearing her suddenly ask an irrelevant question, both Jiang Su and Guan Qixin were a little stunned. Guan Qixin even thought for a second before realizing what jade pendant she was talking about. That was 2 years ago, when she suddenly started learning jade carving, and gave him a jade pendant she carved herself. He remembered her saying at the time, "Remember to carry it with you." Guan Qixin said okay with his mouth full, but turned around and threw the ordinary jade pendant aside. He never saw it again after that. Hearing her ask about it at this time, Guan Qixin was not guilty, but frowned and asked her, "Why are you asking this for no reason?" Jiang Su's gaze fell on his arm in a sling, and she smiled slightly, already knowing the answer. "It seems to be lost." She didn't say when she gave it to him that the jade pendant was actually a protective magic charm she made specially. The reason he had a car accident was because he was contaminated with the resentment on Guan Ruerue's body. If he had been carrying the jade pendant with him at the time, he wouldn't have been injured even if he had a car accident. But now he broke an arm, which means that the jade pendant she carved herself was lost long ago. And yet, he had the nerve to say that he truly regarded her as family. Really so shamelessly ridiculous. "Yushu." Guan Qixin seemed to want to explain, but Jiang Su was too lazy to listen and interrupted him. "If Guan Ruerue wants to solve her problem, let her come to me herself. As for you, as long as you stay away from her, you won't continue to have bad luck." Guan Qixin's face darkened when he heard this, and Jiang Su added, "This is my last piece of advice. Whether you listen or not is up to you." After speaking, she was too lazy to wait for him to leave on his own, and took the bracelet and went straight out of the side hall and upstairs. Yes, she took the bracelet, which was the reward for her advice just now. Guan Qixin didn't expect her to leave so suddenly and wanted to chase after her. But Jiang Su blocked him, and then said very loudly, "Butler, see him out." The butler appeared almost instantly, looked at Guan Qixin, and put on a very standard smile. He was very familiar with seeing guests out. Guan Qixin was forcibly escorted out of the Jiang family gate. Jiang Su, seeing that the eyesore had finally left, immediately ran upstairs again. He still had a bone to pick with Jiang Yuxuan. Chapter 43, Jade Pendant? I have one too. Jiang Huai and Jiang Yuqing weren't home today. When they returned in the evening, and heard that Guan Qixin had come to make trouble for Yuxuan, they immediately instructed the butler. From now on, no one from the Guan family is allowed in. Then they prepared to go see Yuxuan. They were just afraid that the Guan family would wrong their daughter again. But just as they were about to go upstairs, they saw Jiang Yuxuan walking down with the little fox, followed by a rare tail. Jiang Su followed her, huffing and puffing, questioning, "What was that with my arm just now? Did you do something to me?" "Jiang Yuxuan, I advise you to confess honestly. If it weren't for me today, you would have been bullied to death by that Guan family guy. Weren't you quite capable of arguing with us before? Why couldn't you say a word to that Guan family guy? You're embarrassing our Jiang family." Jiang Yuqing frowned subconsciously as he watched Jiang Su pestering Jiang Yuxuan, assuming that this kid was making trouble for Yuxuan again. He was about to speak, but Jiang Hui stopped him. Jiang Yuqing paused, but saw Jiang Hui watching with interest. Jiang Su didn't notice the two downstairs until Jiang Yuxuan finally stopped. He turned his head and a guilty look flashed across his face for a moment, but he quickly calmed down and greeted obediently. Uncle Brother Hui, you're back? Yeah. What are you talking about? Jiang Yuqing asked in a deep voice. Jiang Yuxuan was about to speak, but Jiang Su, afraid that she would complain again, quickly took 2 steps forward and said first, Uncle, we were talking about that foster brother from the Guan family coming to the door today. You don't know, that guy kept talking about his older brother status, and the Guan family's nurturing grace to suppress people. I scolded him away. Jiang Hui raised an eyebrow. You're quite capable. Jiang Su puffed up his chest proudly when he heard Jiang Hui praising him. Of course, take a look at where this is. He's bullying people on Jiang family's territory. Doesn't he know who he is? As Jiang Su spoke, he glanced at Jiang Yuxuan, seeing that her expression was normal as she listened to him, and there was no gratitude on her face. He felt a little unhappy again. He kindly stood up for her today, and she didn't even say thank you all afternoon, and she didn't even bother to talk to him. She was simply ungrateful. No wonder Sister Xueshi said he shouldn't meddle in other people's business. This person wasn't worth helping. Unable to hold back his anger, Jiang Su decided to change his approach and complain. Uncle Brother Hui, you don't know, but Jiang Yuxuan has a pretty good relationship with that foster brother of hers from the Guan family. She even made him some kind of jade pendant by hand. Hearing pretty good relationship, Jiang Yuqing subconsciously looked at Jiang Yuxuan. Jiang Yuxuan shook her head, concisely not good. Jiang Hui only smiled. Jade pendant? Are you talking about amulets? I have one too. As he spoke, he subtly and a bit showily pulled a red string from his collar. Hanging on the red string was a jade pendant engraved with runes. Jiang Yuxuan saw the red string jade pendant hanging around his neck, which was completely incompatible with his young master temperament. Her eyelashes moved slightly, and her almond eyes seemed to brighten a little, but her expression remained as usual. Jiang Su didn't expect that his rare attempt to instigate discord would fail on the spot. He stared at the jade pendant with his eyes wide open, feeling inexplicably jealous. He looked at Jiang Yuqing expectantly. Uncle, do you have one too? Jiang Yuqing pursed his lips, looked at the jade pendant around his son's neck, and then at Xuxuan. His voice was deep and restrained. I don't have one. Jiang Xuxuan was a little surprised. You do? I gave it to you. Jiang Yuqing was stunned. A moment of joy flashed in his eyes, but he quickly frowned. I didn't receive it. Yes, your one is with me. Jiang Hui interjected, without blushing or skipping a beat. Xuxuan asked me to pass it on, but I didn't. Jiang Yuqing's expression darkened when he heard this. He straightened his face and wanted to teach him a lesson, but he heard Jiang Hui say unhurriedly, because father made a mistake at that time, I temporarily withheld the amulet for Xuxuan. As for what the specific mistake was, he didn't say, but Jiang Yuqing could guess. Guilt flashed in his eyes, but he quickly returned to normal, put on a stern face, and said, Since Xuxuan asked you to pass it on, even if you have an opinion, you can't hide it and withhold it privately. Hand it over quickly. Jiang Hui shrugged. It's in my room. I'll get it for you later. No, go get it now. The old father was furious, and Jiang Hui didn't resist anymore. He went upstairs to get the jade pendant, and brought it down soon after. The jade pendant was still wrapped in a blessing bag, and had not been opened. Jiang Yuqing opened it directly in front of Jiang Xuxuan. Seeing that it was indeed the same jade pendant as Jiang Hui's, a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. However, he restrained himself from showing it on his face, but he still held it in his hand and stroked it again and again. Did you carve this yourself? Excellent craftsmanship. I didn't expect Xuxuan to have such skills. Dad received it. His jade pendant didn't have a red string, so Jiang Yuqing carefully put the thing back into the blessing bag, and carefully tucked it into the pocket of his coat. Jiang Su looked at Jiang Yuqing's movements, and his eyes were a little jealous. But he didn't know if he was jealous that his uncle liked Jiang Xuxuan's gifts so much, or jealous that Jiang Xuxuan only gave gifts to his 2 family members and didn't give him one. On the other side, Guan Qishan, who had been snubbed at the Jiang family, returned to the ward and saw his parents and Guan Ruerue still waiting in the ward. Seeing him, Guan's father hurriedly asked, "How is it? Did she agree?" Guan Qixin shook his head. "Xu has really changed now." Bai Shuqin scolded immediately, "That girl is a wolf. I said it long ago. If you ask me, it's better to ask the master who gave Ruerue her fortune that year than to ask her." Guan Baoqing frowned and was also a little unhappy. "If I could find him, I would have found him long ago. Do I need you to tell me?" But ever since Jiang Su car accident, he had lost contact with that person. He wondered what had happened to that master. Bai Shuqin was rebuffed and dared not argue with Guan Baoqing any further, so she changed the subject. "That dead girl refuses to help. Then she can forget about the bracelet left by the old lady." She then asked Guan Qixin, "Where's the bracelet?" A moment of awkwardness flashed across Guan Qixin's face, and after a long while he said, "The bracelet, she took it." "What?" Bai Shuqin couldn't help but slam the table. "She doesn't do anything and still has the nerve to take the old lady's bracelet. How can this little bitch be so shameless?" Guan Ruerue, lying on the bed, also looked angry, cursing her brother for being useless, actually letting Jiang Su take the bracelet away. Wasn't that letting that bitch get her way? Guan Ruerue slammed her hand in anger, but forgot that she was still on an 4 drip. The needle instantly pierced into her flesh, and even blood began to flow back. She couldn't help but cry out in pain. "It hurts." As soon as they heard her cry in pain, everyone rushed to her bedside, anxiously checking her hand. In the chaos, someone must have pressed on the bedboard, and the half-raised hospital bed suddenly collapsed, causing Guan Ruerue to fall back onto the bed unexpectedly. This shouldn't have been a big deal, but Guan Ruerue cried and shouted about Altong waist pain. The Guan family rang the bell and called for the doctor. After a thorough examination, they said that her waist had also been sprained. Bai Shuqin immediately flew into a rage, rebuking the hospital for its faulty infrastructure that led to the worsening of the illness. She made such a scene, and Guan Ruerue, stimulated by her, suffered an unbearable headache from her mild concussion, and turned to dry heave. Guan Baoqing stood on the side, coldly watching the chaotic scene, his face growing darker. He was now certain that Ruerue couldn't continue like this. Tomorrow he still had to find a way to let Ruerue see Chushu in person. Chapter 44. Don't go to high places. The Jiang family. Jiang Chushu was carefully wiping the bracelet she had finally gotten back from the Guan family, when the phone beside her suddenly rang. When she saw the caller ID, it turned out to be a high school classmate she hadn't contacted in a long time. Jiang Chushu answered the phone and heard a somewhat anxious voice. "Guan Chushu, it's me. Are you in High City right now?" I had a car accident, and I'm in the hospital. My family cut off my card. Can you come see me and help me pay the bill? Please." Jiang Chushu didn't say anything, just listened to the other end of the phone. The other end seemed a little guilty. "We're classmates. You wouldn't not help me with this, would you?" "Hello. Guan Chushu, are you still listening?" "I heard you," Jiang Chushu said, "but please tell the Guan madam beside you that if she wants to see me, she should have Guan Ruerue come to me in person, instead of using such underhanded methods to coax me to the hospital to see her." With that, she hung up the phone without a second thought. The classmate on the other end was dumbfounded. And not only him, Bai Shuqin on the side was even more dumbfounded. "How did she know I asked you to call?" Then she questioned the person. "Did you hint at her?" "Classmate. What the hell is this bizarre situation?" What Bai Shuqin didn't know was that Jiang Chushu's hearing had become more acute than ordinary people since she learned mystic arts. The reason she didn't speak just now was because she heard Bai Shuqin's voice quietly urging the person on the other end. She could understand Bai Shuqin borrowing someone else's phone to contact her. After all, she had already blacklisted the Guan family's contact information. But what she couldn't understand was why they always used such a superior attitude to order others around. Even though they were now asking for her help, they still had to resort to such tricks to get her to see Guan Ruerue. No way she could go to hell. After properly putting away the bracelet, Jiang Chushu got up and went downstairs, preparing to go to her rented house to get some more materials to make something. As soon as she reached the second floor, she ran into Jiang Su, who was also about to go downstairs. Jiang Su had obviously stayed up late playing games last night, with obvious dark circles under his eyes and a somewhat listless expression. However, when he saw Jiang Su, he snorted at her lightly and turned to go downstairs. Unexpectedly, Jiang Su suddenly stopped him. Wait. Jiang Su was a little surprised to be stopped by her, thinking that she was finally going to thank him, and turned his head with some arrogance. What? He easily picked up various local dialects that didn't belong to Heiress when playing online games with others, but he only dared to say them in private, never in front of Grandpa Jiang. Jiang Su simply looked at him and said, "Don't go see your online friend today, and especially don't go to high places." Jiang Su felt she was crazy when he heard this and snorted, "None of your business." With that, he went downstairs. Jiang Su watched the boy's back, thinking about the black aura she had seen hovering between his eyebrows, and thought to herself that she had tried to warn him. If a young man wanted to die, there was nothing she could do. Downstairs, Jiang Su was still muttering about how inexplicable Jiang Su was when he saw Lu Xueshi suddenly walking over. "Xiao Su, what's wrong?" "It's nothing, just a nasty person." As he spoke, he glanced at Lu Xueshi and asked her, "Sister Xueshi, are you going out?" "Yes, I have a date with an online friend today." Hearing the word online friend, Jiang Su subconsciously thought of what Jiang Su had just said, and felt it was a strange coincidence. How could Jiang Su have just said that, and Sister Xueshi was already going to meet an online friend? Although he didn't believe Jiang Su's words, he inexplicably had a strange intuition in his heart, and subconsciously said, "There are a lot of scams online now, Sister Xueshi. It's better for a girl like you not to meet online friends casually." Lu Xueshi smiled when she heard this. "Xiao Su, you have a strong sense of prevention, but don't worry, this online friend of mine is very reliable. Speaking of which, you know her too, it's Chun Chun from the game." Jiang Su was stunned. He remembered this Chun Chun. She was a little lowly with a cute voice, about the same age as him. Because he liked to play games, Sister Xueshi would occasionally go on the game to accompany him, and they met this Chun Chun when they teamed up. "How did you suddenly think of meeting up?" "Isn't it because we have nothing to do during the holidays, so we just made an appointment?" Lu Xueshi said, suddenly seeming to think of something. "Why don't you come with me, Xiao Su?" "Jiang Su, ah?" Lu Xueshi smiled gently and charmingly. "Didn't you say it's not good for a girl like me to go out to meet online friends casually? If you come with me, I won't be alone, and you know Chun Chun anyway." Jiang Su frowned, wanting to say that he still wouldn't go, but the corner of his eye just happened to see Jiang Su had already walked downstairs, and after hearing what the two of them said, she glanced at him, as if reminding, but also warning. Jiang Su's temper rose inexplicably. As if not wanting to lose, he opened his mouth and changed his mind. "Okay, I'll go with you. Then hurry up and go upstairs to change your clothes. I'll wait for you." "Oh," Jiang Su responded, turning his head and giving Jiang Su a provocative look. Jiang Su was too lazy to look at him and walked straight to the entrance. Lu Xueshi seemed to have just noticed her, and greeted her softly. "Xu, are you going out too? Would you like to wait a bit, and I'll have the driver give you a ride?" Jiang Su, who was about to go upstairs, paused when he heard this, and felt that these words were a little strange for some reason, but he couldn't put his finger on where they were strange, but he subconsciously glanced in the direction of Jiang Su. Just then, Jiang Su glanced faintly at Lu Xueshi and said, "No need." After saying that, she walked straight to the entrance, changed her shoes, but before leaving, she took another look at a pair of limited edition sneakers in the shoe cabinet. Lu Xueshi watched her back, and a few strands of mockery slowly rose in her originally gentle eyes. Not long after, Jiang Su changed his clothes and hurried downstairs. He still seemed listless. Seeing that Jiang Su had already left, he couldn't help but say to Lu Xueshi, "Sister Xueshi, why don't we cancel today? Let's make another appointment with her another day." Lu Xueshi immediately looked puzzled. "We've already made an appointment. How can I break my promise? Besides, didn't you just say it's dangerous to meet netizens alone?" Lu Xueshi seemed to blame him, and reached out to pull him. "Okay, just think of it as accompanying me out. You've been cooped up at home every day, and you're going to be bored." Jiang Su was helpless and could only be pulled out by her. When changing his shoes, he vaguely felt that the feel of the shoes today was different from usual, but only for a moment, It was quickly thrown to the back of his mind. He thought to himself that he must have been made nervous by Jiang Yushu's too superstitious words. How could he believe her words? Well, at most he just wouldn't go to high places. Chapter 45. Good words are hard to persuade a ghost bent on dying. Jiang Su thought that Lu Xuexi's appointment with netizens would at most be to go to some online celebrity check-in shop that young girls like, or to a mall for shopping. He never expected that the place where the two met was an abandoned school. Besides Chun Chun, there were also several young boys and girls. It is said that they all met online, and one of them claimed to be Su Gongzi from a real estate company. This school has been bought by my dad, and is preparing to replan and rebuild a large amusement park. This building is planned to be used as a venue for escape rooms. It's still in the planning stage, but we can go inside and play real-person CS first. Su Gongzi's real name is Su Nantuo. His family has a certain status in Heiress. Besides various games, he also likes to study all kinds of novel and fun things. This includes conducting real-person CS games at the school. Since its establishment, this school has been plagued by incidents, ranging from students jumping off buildings to mental breakdowns. Last year, it was even discovered that a pregnant underage girl was trying to commit suicide on the roof. The school and parents couldn't stand it anymore, and the school was forced to close. The government also auctioned off the school to replan it. A friend of mine runs a CS store. I've had someone prepare the necessary things and props. We'll divide into 2 groups and compete directly. Is that okay? When Su Nantua said this, his eyes were on Lu Xuexi. Among this group of people, Lu Xuexi has an excellent temperament and a bright and beautiful appearance. Just standing there has already attracted the attention of several boys. Not to mention Su Nantua, a playboy. It can be said that the reason why he organized this game today was for Lu Xuexi. He just didn't expect her to bring a younger brother. Lu Xuexi naturally noticed the gazes around her, but she didn't care. She even seemed accustomed to the gazes fixed on her, merely smiling to herself as her eyes fell on Jiang Su, who had looked unwell ever since they arrived. She asked with concern, "Xiao Su, what's wrong? Don't you love playing games the most?" Jiang Su was in no mood to play right now. Looking at the rows of school buildings around him, each seeming impossibly tall, he felt as if Jiang Shushu had hit the mark. A sense of retreat began to creep into his heart. Why didn't you tell me we were coming to a place like this before we left? I don't want to play. Jiang Su was inherently self-centered, and even with Lu Xuexi, he wouldn't consider her feelings when he was unhappy. Lu Xuexi's face immediately showed a hint of hurt upon hearing his seemingly accusatory words. I thought you'd like going out to play." Her distress immediately stirred up indignation among the nearby boys before Jiang Su could speak. "She's your sister. How can you talk to her like that? If you don't want to play, you don't want to play. Who cares?" Su Nanta was also unhappy. His goddess was upset, and even if he was her brother, he couldn't tolerate it. "Little brother, are you afraid of losing and don't dare to play? Or should I send you home for a glass of milk?" Su Nanta's tone was filled with mockery, and Jiang Su couldn't stand it. He immediately retorted, "Afraid of losing? Let's play. I'll make you all kneel and call me daddy later." Jiang Su had completely forgotten what Jiang Shushu had said. All he wanted was to make these people kneel and call him father. When Jiang Shushu returned from the rental house, it was almost evening. As she was about to step into her house, she suddenly sensed something was wrong. She took out the sub-talisman from her pocket and saw it instantly burn to black ashes. The ashes of the sub-talisman meant that the main talisman had also been burned. Jiang Shushu thought, as expected, "It's hard to persuade a ghost who is determined to die." Thinking that wayward children need to learn a lesson to grow up, Jiang Shushu originally didn't plan to interfere. But the fact that the main talisman she left on the sole of Jiang Su's shoe turned to ashes so quickly indicated that Jiang Su had provoked something unusual, especially the faint familiarity of the yin energy left on the sub-talisman. Jiang Shushu thought for a moment, and turned around to walk back out. If only for the sake of her third uncle and aunt who had treated her quite well. Jiang Shushu called Jiang Hui to ask for the phone number of the driver, who took Jiang Su and Lu Xuexi out, while quickly walking out of the gate. Halfway there, she saw a familiar Maybach driving not far away, with its familiar low profile, accompanied by the familiar golden light from the car window. Without thinking, Jiang Su went up to stop the car. Big shot. Oh no, Xiao Chu, lend me a car. Chu Beiha. Was he being pestered by these siblings? Jiang Su took it for granted and got into the back seat of the Chu Big Shot's car. After finding out where Jiang Su was from the driver, she asked him to drive directly to the school. Half an hour later, the car arrived at the abandoned school. Jiang Su thanked Chu Beiha and walked in by herself. As soon as she entered, she saw the abandoned teaching building in the distance, filled with black energy. She frowned, not expecting things to be more troublesome than she had imagined. With such a densing energy, there had to be a vengeful ghost of at least 100 years. But why couldn't she feel even the slightest bit when she was outside the school earlier? Could it be that this school has a barrier? Without time to think, Jiang Su quickly headed towards the teaching building. As soon as she entered the building, she felt a rush of yin and evil energy coming towards her. The strands of black energy seemed to materialize, surging from all directions, as if trying to drill into her body. Jiang Su casually drew out a cleansing charm to clear the way, and she heard a familiar and shrill scream beside her. Ghost! It was Jiang Su's voice from the 5th floor. Without much thought, Jiang Su hurried upstairs. To get upstairs as quickly as possible, she directly used a lightweight charm. With a light leap, she cleared one flight of stairs. In a few leaps, she had already reached the 5th floor. Just as she entered the 5th floor corridor, Jiang Su saw Jiang Su. He was carrying a giant silkworm cocoon egg on his back, and was desperately running back to the other end of the corridor. Behind him, strands of silk thread like silkworm silk surged towards him, accompanied by the yin and evil energy, chilling to the bone. Jiang Su ran forward desperately, but felt like cold air was wrapping around his ankles layer by layer, making every step he took feel like he was stepping into an ice cellar. Feeling the silkworm threads constantly approaching behind him, Jiang Su had a feeling he was done for today. Even so, he didn't let go of the giant egg on his back. He was just regretting it now. Regretting it to death. Jiang Su had clearly reminded him, but he still went out to meet his online friend. Not only did he meet them, but he also went straight to the rooftop terrace and released that thing. Jiang Su really wanted to cry. He wanted to call Jiang Su for help, but he didn't even remember Jiang Su's phone number. Before his eyes, Jiang Su felt a few strands of silvery white silk thread flash past his eyes. Before he could react, the threads had quickly wrapped around his neck and ankles. Jiang Su's eyes were filled with horror. The moment the threads embedded into his skin, he felt that he might really die today. Tears finally couldn't help but fall. In despair, he suddenly heard a familiar female voice in his ear. Clear and sharp, but at this moment, it was like heavenly music. Heavenly thunder rumbles, earthly thunder booms. Above are the 6 jia, below are the 6 ding. I obey the decree. To surely execute with thunder boom. Chapter 46. 7 Silkworm Cocoon Eggs. Accompanied by this sharp shout, a thunder talisman flew out from Jiang Su's hand. The next second, 3 bolts of fire thunder struck down from the sky, instantly turning the black energy-wrapped silkworm threads into charred ashes. Even the threads that were originally wrapped around Jiang Su's neck and feet turned into ashes. Jiang Su's body went limp, and he fell to the ground with the giant egg. He turned his head, saw Jiang Su, and his eyes instantly turned red. He opened his mouth and wailed. Jiang Su, sister. Sister. Ooh. I was wrong, sister. Jiang Su quickly stepped forward and slapped him on the head. Stop wailing. Carry your egg and follow me. She just forced back those silkworms, it's not safe here. As for what the silkworm pupa egg on Jiang Su's back is, judging by how protective he was just now, it's obvious that Lu Xueshi must be inside. Jiang Su was used to being patted by his own father, and her pat gave him a sense of familiarity. He instantly forgot to cry and nodded, quickly hoisting the human-sized silkworm pupa egg onto his back and getting up. Jiang Zhuzhu led him back downstairs, and taking advantage of the temporary safety, she casually pulled out a yellow talisman and flicked it. The yellow talisman instantly became as tough as a blade in her hand. Jiang Su watched as she pinched the yellow talisman with 2 fingers and swiped it casually. The The silkworm pupa egg that he had just placed on the ground instantly broke in half, and in the next moment, a girl fell out of the egg. Jiang Su quickly helped the person up. Jiang Su was stunned when she saw the obviously unfamiliar girl. Who is this? Where's Lu Xueshi? She's Chun. Sister Xueshi, she's still upstairs. Jiang Su's tone was momentarily stiff when he mentioned Lu Xueshi. Jiang Su didn't notice, but frowned when she heard that she was still upstairs. If you three are going to meet, why did you have to pick this kind of place? Jiang Su was speechless. What normal online friend would choose this kind of place to meet? Jiang Su's expression stiffened, and he looked at Jiang Su with obvious guilt on his face. And not three. Jiang Su's brow twitched, and she suddenly had a bad feeling. We have 9 people besides me and Chun. There are 7 more upstairs. Jiang Su. These days, do people have to gather together to court death? But with 7 lives at stake, she couldn't pretend not to know. You take her and leave here first, I'll go find them. Jiang Su was about to leave when Jiang Su suddenly grabbed her. His face still showed obvious shock, but he wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. The teenager's expression was resolute. I'll go with you, I know where they are. Jiang Su looked at him and didn't decline. She only asked him, you might encounter the same thing as before, aren't you afraid? You're here to save me. I have to be responsible for you. Jiang Su knew that if it weren't for Jiang Su today, he would definitely have been done for. He was a man after all. How could he abandon her and run for his life? The Jiang family weren't the type to be so irresponsible. Besides, there were so many people, so many eggs. How could she save them all by herself? Jiang Su only hesitated for a moment before nodding. The next second, she took out a jade pendant from her small bag and handed it to him. This is a protective jade pendant. You wear it on you. If the situation is not right, you run. Jiang Su's eyes lit up when he saw the familiar jade pendant. He immediately took off the silver chain around his neck, threw away the original pendant, and put on the jade pendant directly. Then he saw Jiang Su rummaging in her backpack, finally taking out a utility knife. She casually took out a piece of yellow paper and wrapped it around the handle, handing it to him. Here for self-defense. Jiang Su's mouth twitched when he looked at the utility knife. Didn't they say that masters always carry various magical artifacts with them? Why doesn't she even have a peachwood sword? This utility knife is too perfunctory, isn't it? But something is better than nothing. Jiang Su accepted it anyway. Jiang Su roughly communicated with him about the situation that might occur later, and after confirming that Jiang Su understood, she took out a few more yellow talismans from her bag. Jiang Su saw her flick her hand, and the yellow talismans instantly circled in the air, and then quickly fell from above Chun, directly erecting a barrier around her. Jiang Su was completely stunned. Jiang Su really knows magic. He suddenly had a little more confidence in the little utility knife in his hand. The two went back upstairs. When they reached the rooftop, they found that the door to the rooftop had already begun to be entangled with strands of silk. Jiang Su directly burned the silk with a fire talisman, opened the door, and saw 7 giant eggs neatly arranged above the rooftop. Jiang Su signaled Jiang Su to hide behind the door, and she stepped inside. Jiang Su considered herself cautious enough, but she didn't expect that the moment she stepped onto the rooftop, her vision spun, and when she reacted, she was already caught in another illusion. It was still the rooftop in front of her, but the scene was another day. A girl in a school uniform was pushed to the ground by several others, and soon someone sat on her and started pinching her all over. Your mother has a stall selling snacks, but she's raised you so fair and plump. This flesh is so good to pinch. You guys try it too. Remember to pinch places covered by clothes, so no one will find out. I heard that some people turn blue and purple right after being pinched. Why don't we take off her clothes and see? The girl struggled desperately, but was still stripped of her top. Several girls laughed around her, even taking out their phones to take pictures. The girl hugged her body and cried, begging for mercy. The scene changed. The girl stood on the rooftop, dressed neatly, but jumped off the building without hesitation. It was the same scene, but it was a boy in a school uniform. He stood in the same position as the girl, holding a stack of test papers in his hand, his eyes numb, tearing the test papers over and over again. Finally, he threw the shredded test papers away, and the shredded paper strips flew all over the sky, and the boy jumped down with the flying paper strips. Jiang Su stood there, watching those young lives who came and went, constantly disappearing here. They were either subjected to bullying, or under excessive academic pressure, or molested but criticized instead. They all harbored resentment and injustice towards the surrounding area or the school. Their resentment wrapped around this teaching building day after day, affecting later people as well. Perhaps some people didn't want to die, but they still chose to end their lives. Even as she watched that scene through time and space, she seemed to feel that faint resentment invading her. Jiang Su frowned. Just as she was about to find a way to leave, the scene in front of her changed again, and the person who appeared this time made her stop her hand that was about to move. In the new scene, there was a girl who looked 16 or 17 years old. Different from the previous students, the girl's abdomen had a slight bulge. At this time, she protected her abdomen and stepped back. And in front of her, slowly approaching her, was Guan Rue. Chapter 47, Lin Rue. At the same time, the hospital. Guan Rue was lying on the hospital bed, and the whole person fell into a nightmare again. As the most beloved little princess of the Guan family, Guan Rue has always gotten whatever she wants. She knew that the Guan family was not a top wealthy family, but this did not prevent her from being a darling in the eyes of ordinary people. Initially, she noticed Lin Rue just because she had the same name as herself. When she accidentally heard classmates calling another person by her familiar name, Guan Rue was unhappy in her heart. She found it disgusting that a pauper shared the same name as her. But to maintain her image among her classmates, she didn't show it. Instead, she publicly claimed it was a kind of fate, only hinting in her words that the same name made it difficult for her to tell whether she was being called or Lin Rue, which was somewhat distressing. The Qin family and the Guan family had business dealings. Qin Hao had liked her since childhood. As her most loyal simp, he naturally wanted to solve her troubles as soon as he heard Guan Rue's complaints. Qin Hao began to openly bully Lin Rue. He brought people to block her on her way to school, deliberately overturned her food tray, and threw her desk, chairs, and books into the garbage station. Every time he saw Lin Rue's embarrassing appearance, he would not hesitate to mock her. Guan Rue only lightly chided him for his performance, saying, "Don't bully classmates. Not too heavy, not too light, like a tickle. More like a disguised encouragement." Qin Hao became even more proactive in making trouble for Lin Rue. Guan Rue didn't take such a small matter to heart at first, until one day, she suddenly realized that Qin Hao spent less and less time around her. Even the daily, unwavering informational care suddenly disappeared. Guan Rue didn't like Qin Hao, but that didn't stop her from getting used to his diligent flattery. She wanted to know why, so she took the initiative to pay attention to Qin Hao's affairs for the first time. As a result, she stumbled upon that scene. Qin Hao pinned Lin Rue against the wall, his entire body pressed tightly against her, forcibly and domineeringly kissing her despite Lin Rue's struggles, even murmuring, "Lin Rue, I like you. If you listen to me, I won't bully you." Guan Rue initially thought that Qin Hao was just playing tricks on Lin Rue in different ways, and even that he was using Lin Rue as her substitute, until she actively gave him a chance to get close to her. Qin Hao remained unmoved. Later, she jokingly asked about that Lin Rue. Qin Hao looked at her and said with rare seriousness, Rue, I might not be able to like you anymore in the future." Because he had fallen in love with Lin Rue. Not a substitute, nor a deliberate manipulation, but a genuine liking, the kind where he wanted her to be his girlfriend. Guan Rue found it ridiculous. An abuser, who fell in love with the other party in the process of abuse, and he even delusionally wanted to date her. Qin Hao was just a scumbag and idiot. Although Guan Rue didn't like him, she didn't like someone taking what belonged to her even more, even if it was a piece of garbage. So she pretended to be happy and congratulated him, even actively inviting Lin Rue to join their small group. She took care of Lin Rue in front of Qin Hao, treated her to meals, but actually made her eat her leftovers from the previous night. She styled her hair, but accidentally burned her scalp. She trimmed her nails, but accidentally cut off a piece of her flesh. Qin Hao, that trash, would occasionally even show pity because of her injuries. Whenever this happened, Guan Rue would apologize to Lin Rue with great remorse and sadness, and Qin Hao naturally wouldn't mind. He's just an idiot. He kept saying he liked Lin Rue, but he didn't know that Lin Rue was suffering a different kind of treatment right under his nose. Guan Rue originally just wanted to teach this bitch who dared to steal her things a little lesson. But who would have thought that she would accidentally discover that Lin Rue was pregnant with Qin Hao's child? Guan Rue couldn't describe how she felt when she found out about this. It was like a toy she had used for a long time had accidentally picked up someone else's scent. She felt that Qin Hao was dirty. But compared to Qin Hao, she hated the person who dirtied the toy even more. So taking advantage of Lin Ruerue's fear and helplessness due to her pregnancy, she invited her to the top floor of the deserted teaching building. She told her, "Qin Hao treated you that way in the beginning because of me, because I didn't like anyone having the same name as me. So Qin Hao took the initiative to bully you. Do you think he really likes you? It's just because I've been ignoring him, so he wanted a substitute to vent and play with. Rue, I'm sorry, but you're just a substitute. He's really something. Even if he wanted to please me, he didn't need to go this far. He even caused a life." It wasn't until that moment that Lin Rue knew why she had been bullied, and even entangled by such a scumbag in the name of love. She hated Qin Hao, and she hated Guan Rue. Perhaps it was because of the breakdown, or perhaps it was influenced by the curse of the rooftop of that teaching building. Lin Rue had a miscarriage without warning. Guan Rue watched as she fell to the ground, the blood under her flowing all over the floor. She panicked, and her first reaction was to run. Ignoring Lin Ruerue's pleading and desperate gaze, and the hand that struggled to reach out for help, Guan Rue turned around and ran, even subconsciously closing the door to the rooftop. She went home all the way without telling anyone about Lin Rue. Until the next day, news spread online that someone had found a girl suspected of attempting suicide due to underage pregnancy on the roof of the abandoned teaching building of No. 2 Middle School. Fortunately, she was discovered in time, and the girl's life was saved, but the child was gone. Sometime later, Guan Rue heard that Lin Ruerue's family had applied for a leave of absence for her. Since then, she had no news of Lin Rue, and even Qin Hao suddenly transferred away, but Guan Rue at that time no longer cared about what happened to Qin Hao. A year later, Guan Rue had almost forgotten about Lin Rue. She didn't understand why Lin Rue suddenly clung to her. Is she dead? But what does her death have to do with her? It wasn't her fault she died. If it wasn't for her being a slut, how could she have gotten together with Qin Hao? Even got pregnant with his child? It wasn't her fault she had a miscarriage. It was clearly her bad luck. Why come and haunt her? Once again, she was trapped in a nightmare loop. Waking up, being scared, awake again, waking up again. Guan Rue broke down and cursed at Lin Rue, who was transformed from Guan Qishan in front of her. Lin Rue, what does your death have to do with me? It wasn't my fault you died. Why are you torturing me like this? Do you think you can scare me like this? I won't be afraid of you. You're just a slut who got together with Qin Hao. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. When my dad finds a powerful master, I'll have him take you in. I'll make your soul fly away, bitch. As if provoked by her words, the Lin Rue in front of her suddenly became extremely hideous. This time, Guan Rue did not wake up again because Lin Rue reached out and directly strangled her neck. She wanted her to never wake up again. Chapter 48 Jiang Su, you better give me an explanation. Lin Rue in the dream was shedding 2 lines of bloody tears. Her appearance was terrifying and frightening. Her eyes were full of hatred for Guan Rue, and her hands were tightly strangling her neck. In reality, Guan Rue on the hospital bed suddenly began to twitch violently in her sleep, as if her breath was being strangled to death. The instruments next to the hospital bed began to make sharp noises. Soon, doctors and nurses rushed into the VIP ward to perform various emergency treatments. In the chaos, someone's hand touched Guan Rue on the hospital bed. Lin Rue in the dream seemed to be bounced away by a strong force. The next second, Guan Rue suddenly opened her eyes in reality, gasping for breath in horror. At the same time, On the rooftop of the teaching building, Jiang Su stared at Guan Ruerue as she threw the suddenly bleeding and collapsing girl down and ran away. A cold sneer appeared on the corner of her mouth. She seemed to be immersed in the girl's desperate illusion, and did not notice the silk threads quietly approaching her again. The strands of silk turned into black gas, trying to drill into her body bit by bit. However, Jiang Su, who had been motionless, suddenly had a glimmer of golden light leaking from her palm. The glimmer of golden light swayed, and the next second, it instantly broke through the illusion in front of her. Jiang Su suddenly opened her eyes. Her gaze suddenly locked onto a certain spot on the rooftop, and then 3 thunder talismans flew out from her palm. The thunder of heaven rumbles, the thunder of earth dims, above are the 6 jia, below are the 6 ding, the Supreme has ordered, boom! Still the familiar thunder spell. Jiang Su thought that the 3 thunder talismans could at least force the other party to show their true form. Even if they couldn't inflict heavy damage, she would find an opportunity to save the person first. But she didn't expect that at the instant the thunder talisman was thrown, a glimmer of golden light seemed to fly out with it. Jiang Chuxiao didn't have time to retract the golden light, and finished chanting the thunder incantation just like that. And at the instant she shouted the last word, a flash of lightning appeared in the sky above the top floor, and the next second, 3 purple lightning bolts struck down fiercely towards the location where Jiang Chuxiao's thunder talisman was thrown. Jiang Chuxiao's eyes widened suddenly. Purple lightning? But before she could think too much, she saw another silkworm chrysalis egg suddenly appear at the spot where the purple lightning struck. Unlike the other giant eggs, this silkworm egg was only the size of a child, and it was blood red all over, as if it had been dyed through with blood. The red silkworm egg tried to escape the instant the purple lightning struck, but under the might of the 3 purple lightning bolts, it had no escape. Under the 3 purple lightning bolts, the shell of the red silkworm egg was almost instantly reduced to ashes, along with the skull inside, which was burned to a charred black. Jiang Chuxiao saw something fly out of the charred skull. Her eyes moved, and she quickly threw out a yellow talisman, and the thing was immediately wrapped in the yellow talisman. After the purple lightning, everything was clear. Jiang Su, who was hiding behind the door, was stunned. He originally thought the thunder that Jiang Chuxiao had used to save him earlier was cool enough. Unexpectedly, that was not his sister's real strength at all. This was, "Sis. You are my sis. Is that skull the culprit? Are we safe now?" Even he could feel that the trace of coldness that had been lingering in the air had disappeared without a trace after the purple lightning. Jiang Su felt an unprecedented sense of ease, and was now excitedly circling around Jiang Chuxiao. Jiang Chuxiao was also marveling at her own power. This was not just a serious injury. She had directly reduced the original body to ashes. You saw it just now, those 3 purple lightning bolts. Jiang Chuxiao was still a little uncertain. Did she summon those just now with her thunder talisman? Jiang Su thought she was bragging and immediately supported her. I saw it, 3 purple lightning bolts that thick. Super cool. Jiang Chuxiao secretly gasped. It really was purple lightning. She didn't see it wrong. Lightning itself has the power to restrain evil spirits, and purple lightning can directly destroy the existence of evil spirits. Such powerful purple lightning. She actually summoned it. Jiang Chuxiao herself didn't know she could summon purple lightning. Although her master had said that she had excellent talent, the time she had spent learning mystic arts was too short, and being able to summon ordinary lightning was already extremely good. Jiang Chuxiao always felt that something was wrong. Before she could think further, her gaze turned to the 7 giant eggs in front of her. The aura of the purple lightning had swept over, and the silkworm cocoons that had been enveloping them had already broken. Save the person first, Jiang Chuxiao said, directly drawing out yellow talismans and splitting open 2 silkworm eggs with a few quick swipes. Seeing this, Jiang Su also hurriedly took out his utility knife and carefully cut open the other silkworm eggs. Soon, the 7 people were rescued from the silkworm cocoons, all of whom had obviously fallen into a coma. Sis, what do we do now? Should we call the police? Jiang Su was now calling her Jie with remarkable ease. Jiang Shushu looked at them and simply said, "Call an ambulance first and get them to the hospital." Although these individuals were affected by Yin energy, Thankfully, it wasn't too severe. Upon hearing this, Jiang Su was very obedient and was about to take out his phone when he heard a slightly deep male voice from behind. I've already had someone call, and the ambulance will be here soon. The two turned their heads and saw that Chu Beiha had also come upstairs at some point. He looked calmly at everything in front of him. His dark eyes swept over the silkworm eggshells beneath them. His brows only furrowed slightly, but he didn't show much surprise. Chu Beiha didn't initially plan to interfere, but when he saw the lightning flashing over the teaching building, he came in anyway. Walking to the bottom of the teaching building, he found the girl lying on the ground. Knowing something must have happened here, he followed the noise to the roof. Jiang Huxu was stunned for a moment by the almost dazzling golden light on Chu Beiji's body, and the next second, a flash of inspiration suddenly flashed in her mind. Suddenly, she seemed to understand something. Just now, along with the thunder talisman, she seemed to have thrown out a bit of golden light that she had previously grabbed from Chu Beiji. So, those 3 purple thunders were attracted by the boss's golden light. In an instant, Jiang Huxu looked at Chu Beiji with a complex and fervent gaze. Complex because she hadn't summoned the purple thunder with her own power after all. Fervent because the golden light on Boss Chu actually had such a use. A bold idea suddenly arose in Jiang Huxu's heart. Just as Jiang Huxu was looking at Chu Beiji was also looking at her, the scrutiny in his dark eyes undisguised. He wanted to ask something, but for the first time he didn't know where to start. He just opened his mouth when he felt a gust of breeze swept across the rooftop, and the next second, the silkworm cocoons beneath the 7 people's feet seemed to instantly turn into dust and dissipate in the breeze. Chu Beiji's brow twitched. Suddenly, he didn't want to ask. Anyway, this was definitely not something that science could explain. Before the two could continue to communicate about the situation in front of them, footsteps came from downstairs again. This time, it was Jiang Huai who came, with a driver behind him. Seeing the corpses lying all over the rooftop, Jiang Huai's face turned green for the first time. He looked at Jiang Su, his voice full of restrained gloom. Jiang Su, you better give me an explanation. Chapter 49 Jade Pendant, can't you give it to me? Jiang Huxu had contacted Jiang Huai to get the driver's address, so it was not surprising that Jiang Huai would come. Jiang Su, however, didn't know that. When he saw Jiang Huai, he immediately hid behind Jiang Huxu like a mouse seeing a cat. This is really not my fault. As he spoke, he didn't forget to tug at Jiang Huxu's sleeve. Sister, please explain to Brother Huai for me. Jiang Huai raised his eyebrows secretly at Jiang Su's small movements, and saw that Jiang Huxu really explained. Yeah, it's not his fault. Jiang Huai thought to himself, if it wasn't his fault, then whose fault could it be? His gaze suddenly fell on Lu Xueshi, who was lying on the ground beside him. So she was the one to blame? However, looking at the 7 people lying on the ground in front of him, he didn't have the mind to investigate further. It's good that you're okay. Soon, the ambulance arrived and took the 7 people on the roof and Chun downstairs to the hospital. Hearing that something had happened to Lu Xueshi, Jiang Han and Jiang Qing quickly rushed over. After hearing the story and seeing that Xueshi was unconscious while Jiang Su was unharmed, they couldn't help but question him. What's wrong with you? How could you not protect her when you went out with Xueshi? Xueshi usually dotes on you so much. If you have any conscience at all, you shouldn't have let her get into trouble. Wait until Grandma comes back and see how you explain it to her. Jiang Su originally wanted to tell his 2 cousins about his thrilling experience today, but suddenly he was bombarded with questions, and his face turned red with anger. What do you know? How do you know I didn't protect her? Why don't you ask her what she was doing then? Jiang Su, after all, had the temperament of a young boy. Being questioned like that for no reason made him both angry and aggrieved, but he didn't say anything more. He just turned his head and ran off in a huff. Jiang Han and Jiang Cheng felt that Jiang Su had done something wrong and didn't dare to take responsibility, so they ignored him. Jiang Yi didn't know what happened in the ward. She had just gone to several other wards to check on the patients, and casually removed the remaining yin energy from their bodies. As soon as she came back, she saw Jiang Su storming out of the ward, turning his head, and entering the safety passage door. Inside the safety staircase, Jiang Su angrily wiped away his tears with the back of his hand. It wasn't that he was too delicate to be told off, he just felt wronged and sad. Although he had impulsively agreed to enter the building for the competition, he had been paying attention to his surroundings. When those silken threads suddenly appeared, none of them reacted. Seeing that someone was already entangled, his first reaction was to pull Lu Xueshi and run. He even rushed forward to block the silken threads when they were about to entangle Lu Xueshi. But the moment he saw his feet entangled, Lu Xueshi directly broke free from his hand and ran. On the contrary, Chun Chun rushed over to help him, and as a result, both of them were entangled. How did he break free from those silken threads later? He remembered that at the time, the soles of his feet suddenly felt like they had been burned, and immediately after, the silk threads that had been entangling him suddenly broke. He took the opportunity to grab Chun Chun, who had already been wrapped into a cocoon, and ran away. There was no time to think much in the urgent situation, but now that he thought about it, Jiang Su immediately took off his shoes to check. As a result, he saw a layer of black ash on his insole, obviously traces of something being burned. On closer inspection, there was also a small piece of yellow paper in the corner. The moment he saw the yellow paper, Jiang Su subconsciously thought of the yellow talisman used by Jiang Yi, and he seemed to understand something. His eyes instantly turned even redder. So he had been saved by Jiang Yi from the beginning. She had clearly reminded him, but he just wouldn't listen and insisted on going out with Lu Xueshi. As a result, she was not only not angry but secretly stuffed a yellow talisman into his shoe to protect him. Thinking of this, Jiang Su couldn't help but cry even harder. This time, it was out of gratitude. Not only gratitude but also remorse. He had been so hostile to her before and even joined forces with those two idiots, Jiang Han, to force her to leave home. Yet she was still willing to help him. While he was crying, he suddenly heard the sound of a door being pushed open behind him. Jiang Su was so startled that he instantly stopped crying. He turned his head and saw that it was Jiang Yi. He widened his eyes in surprise, forgetting that he was just crying. Jiang's family genes were already good, and Jiang Su's appearance already had some resemblance to a beautiful boy. Now, with his eyes red and even tears hanging on his eyelashes. At first glance, he even had the air of a fragile, beautiful young boy. Jiang Xuxu raised her eyebrows slightly. Jiang Su's face flushed instantly. He was both embarrassed and ashamed. "What are you doing here?" As soon as the words came out, he realized that his tone seemed a bit harsh, and he immediately softened his voice. "I'm not saying you can't come here. I'm saying if you want to come here for some air, I'll give you the space." Having witnessed Jiang Xuxu's abilities, Jiang Su was now completely convinced by her. But thinking about his previous attitude towards her, thinking that she must look down on him, he couldn't bring himself to call out sister as smoothly as he did in the teaching building. "I came to find you." As Jiang Xuxu spoke, she suddenly reached out to him. "The jade pendant I lent you for protection. It's time to return it to me." Her attitude was so cold, as if the two of them had never faced adversity together before. Jiang Su's eyes instantly turned a little red again, but he subconsciously protected the jade pendant on his neck, forgetting his previous grievances and annoyance, and looked at her eagerly. This jade pendant, wasn't it given to me? The same as the ones given to Brother Huai and Uncle. Jiang Xuxu just glanced at him. "It was just lent to you temporarily. I didn't say I was giving it to you." Jiang Su knew that what she said was true, but he didn't want to give it back. Besides the fact that wearing the jade pendant could indeed protect him, it was also because he wanted her to accept him. Sister, can't you give me this jade pendant?" Afraid that she wouldn't agree, he quickly added, "I was ignorant before, sister. I will definitely not go against you in the future. I will do whatever you tell me to do." Jiang Xuxu just looked at him like that. "You really want it?" Jiang Su nodded vigorously. He wanted it. Jiang Xuxu then handed her hand in front of him again, opening her mouth like a soulless accounting tool. "The jade pendant is 200,000, plus the reward this time. 4 thunder talismans are 400,000, which is a total of 600,000. I support bank card transfers and Alipay transfers." Based on his previous attitude towards her, saving him was already out of consideration for the fact that they were relatives, and Jiang Xuxu would naturally not undercharge him for the bills that needed to be settled. Jiang Su also knew that his previous performance was not good. Hearing that he had to pay, he did not refuse, but shivered temporarily. My money is all in WeChat, sister. Why don't we add each other as friends first, and I'll transfer it to you. Jiang Su saw through the boy's little thoughts with just one glance, and without exposing him, took out her phone and directly added the other party as a friend. Jiang Su's face clearly lit up when he saw the friend page that had been approved. Not daring to delay, he quickly transferred 600,000 yuan over. Jiang Su unceremoniously clicked to receive it, and her eyes curved slightly when she saw the amount credited to her account. She was happy to receive the money, and also lamented that the Jiang family was indeed so rich that even a child had so much money. 600,000, given away without batting an eye. Tuesday, the two returned to the ward. Lu Xueshi had already woken up. There was a moment of embarrassment when she saw Jiang Su, but she quickly returned to normal, smiled and reached out to him, her eyes full of worry. Xiaosu, I woke up and didn't see you, it worried me so much. Are you okay? Chapter 50 Lin Ruerue who died. Jiang Su heard her words and saw the worry on her face, but he turned his head away and ignored her. Seeing this, Jiang Cheng on the side immediately darkened his face. Jiang Su, Xueshi is worried about you. What kind of attitude is that? What's it to you what my attitude is? Jiang Su had already returned to his previous state at this moment, and retorted directly at Jiang Cheng, but still had no intention of paying attention to Lu Xueshi. He had always treated her as his own sister, but what happened in the teaching building really left a knot in his heart. Even knowing that it was a normal reaction for ordinary people facing danger, he really didn't like being abandoned, especially being abandoned by someone he trusted. Lu Xueshi looked at Jiang Su's attitude, her eyes flickered slightly, she lowered her eyes slightly, and only said, Xiaosu, today's matter is all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on dragging you with me, you wouldn't have encountered this kind of thing. I'm sorry, sister. Lu Xueshi spoke sincerely, but coupled with her slightly pale face at the moment, Jiang Cheng on the side couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Xueshi, what are you apologizing to him for? You're the one who got into trouble now. That brat should be apologizing to you. Brother Jiang Cheng, don't say that about Xiaosu. The responsibility for this matter lies with me in the end. Xiaosu tried hard to protect me. Don't speak up for him. If he really protected you well, why is he fine, but you ended up in the hospital? Jiang Han on the side also said, Sister Xueshi, you just like to take responsibility on yourself too much. He's not a child either. You can't always indulge him like this. To put it mildly, even if he was the one who got into trouble today, it would be because he didn't protect himself well. Seeing the two of them starting to reproach him again, Jiang Su almost vomited blood from hearing it. He originally didn't want to question Lu Xueshi in front of so many people, but he couldn't help it at this moment. All you know is to condemn me. Why don't you ask her what she did? I said long ago that I didn't want to meet any damn online friends. And I didn't want to play any damn CS. She insisted on bringing me along. And now that something has happened, you're blaming me instead. Why don't you ask her? When she was in danger, I stood in front of her. But what about her? She turned around, let go of me, and ran away by herself. Jiang Su thought that he would get the support of his two brothers after saying these words, but unexpectedly, Jiang Han and Jiang Cheng looked at him with the same look of condemnation. How could Xueshi do such a thing? Jiang Su, don't talk nonsense here. Sister Xueshi took you out of kindness. Did your conscience feed a dog? You're actually blaming her instead? Lu Xueshi suddenly covered her face and began to sob softly. Brother Jiang Han, Brother Jiang Cheng, don't say anything more. Xiaosu is right. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have taken him out with me and put him in such danger without protecting him well. The two Jiangs immediately began to coax her, scolding Jiang Su while coaxing her. Jiang Su was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. He clearly explained, but why wouldn't they listen? And Lu Xueshi's words, neither admitting nor denying, clearly stating her own fault, yet sounding as if he was being unreasonable. In that moment, he suddenly understood how Jiang Su must have felt when they targeted her. Looking at Jiang Han and Jiang Cheng again, he just felt like they were two complete idiots. Just as he was suppressing his anger, he heard Jiang Su, as if she hadn't heard the conversation, speaking. Now that the person is awake, I'll head back first. Saying that, she looked at Jiang Su and asked him, "Are you leaving?" Jiang Su was first stunned, but quickly reacted and nodded. "Yes. Sis, I'm leaving with you." Shooting a fierce eye roll at Lu Xiueshi and the others in the ward, Jiang Su turned his head, his face changing as if by magic, and followed Jiang Xuxi with a smile, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Rather than waste words with idiots, it was better to go home with his sister and get some rest. Leaving the three in the ward, especially Jiang Han and Jiang Cheng, looking at each other dumbfounded. They weren't finished scolding, so why did they leave? Lu Xiueshi lowered her head slightly, her eyes filled with coldness and annoyance. Another incident occurred at the abandoned school building, and although no one died, it attracted the attention of the police. The online discussion about the abandoned school building was once again in full swing, and even those who had accidents in the building in the past were dug up again. In the hospital, Guan Ruerue, who had narrowly escaped death, saw the online reports and slammed her iPad onto the ground in fright. This time, she completely dropped her pretense, crying and begging to find a master. Finding Guan Xiuxiu is fine too, as long as she has a way to save me. I don't need her to come see me. I can go see her, as long as she can take away that Lin Ruerue. I can't take it anymore. That Lin Ruerue turned into a ghost to find me. She wants to kill me, wah. Meanwhile, Jiang Xuxiu, whom Guan Ruerue was so desperately thinking of, appeared in front of an old residential building. The old building was covered in mottled marks, and the walls and doors were plastered with dense small advertisements. Noisy sounds occasionally came from the residential building. The old building had no elevator, and Jiang Xuxiu climbed up to the 6th floor via the stairs. Following the aura in her hand, she stood in front of a room on the 6th floor. She reached out and knocked on the door. After knocking for a while, footsteps finally came from inside the room. The door opened, revealing a gaunt middle-aged woman. She looked haggard, looked at Jiang Xuxiu outside the door, somewhat blank and puzzled. "Girl, who are you looking for?" Jiang Xuxiu looked at the middle-aged woman in front of her, and said slowly, "I'm looking for Lin Ruerue." The middle-aged woman's eyes flickered, and she made a gesture to close the door. "She's dead." Jiang Xuxiu reached out and grabbed the door panel. It was just such a casual touch, but the strength was so great that the door in the woman's hand didn't move at all. "I know she's inside," Jiang Xuxiu said, paused. "I'm here to help her." The middle-aged woman's face trembled. She looked at Jiang Xuxiu, and faint red bloodshot eyes could be seen in her eyes. When she opened her mouth again, her voice was filled with a few traces of forbearance. "Who are you? Did the Qin family send you?" Jiang Xuxiu shook her head. "My surname is Jiang. You can call me Xuxiu." The middle-aged woman looked at her like that, a struggle and pain flashing in her eyes, and finally, she slowly moved away from the door. "Come in." In the slightly cramped hut, there was no sofa in the living room, but a bed was placed there. The middle-aged woman didn't mean to ask her to sit down either, and led her straight to the only bedroom in the house. She knocked on the door first, and then, without waiting for a response from inside, opened the door directly. Following the open door, Jiang Xuxiu finally saw the situation in the room. In the clean room, there was a bed, and on the bed, there was a girl sitting, with her hair disheveled, her eyes dull, like a puppet. It was Lin Ruerue, the one Guan Ruerue said was already dead. Jiang Xuxiu thought, she was right.